Hey y'all, it's me Marquita. I've been meaning to do this video now for a couple of days, but it's been on my heart for some months to actually talk about this stuff. So I hope that this blesses you. The focus of the video for tonight, and I'm sorry y'all, I am so tired, but I gotta do it before I go to bed. But the focus is Band-Aids. When you get a bad cut, bandages or Band-Aids are good for protecting it from further injury, but only for a little while. All doctors advise removing bandages after a while to allow the body to continue its natural healing process, which involves regular circulation of air to oxygenate the wound. Some wounds are shallow enough that a a bandage would inhibit healing or prevent healing. And as that, can happen with leaving a Band-Aid on for too long or if the Band-Aid gets wet. Some wounds need a specific type of Band-Aid. For example, like some deeper wounds may require that you pack the wound with gauze. Some may, like you have the little ones for little cuts. You have the big ones for bigger cuts. You have different types, like waterproof ones, depending on if you're going to be washing your hands a lot. So, just like physical flesh wounds, our spiritual and emotional wounds require bandages as well. And just like just like wounds in the natural, at some point you must remove them. What I want to stress to you is to be careful of using the wrong things to be a Band-Aid for your wound. In my case, I use several different things, people, partying, and drinking to mask my own wounds. I used to go out every single weekend after I moved back home and after my transplant. And it was nothing with going out. It was just the reasoning that I was doing it. It was basically to hide. It was like a coping mechanism. And I I was in a place of not being judgmental of people. And so I chose to hang with some rather unscrupulous people. And God had to reveal those people to me in that process of me going out all the time. And it cost me stuff. Like I ended up having pain and learned that lesson in a very difficult way. And so, same with people. I made friends with people. I've always loved people and loved being around people, but I made friends with people that didn't necessarily have my best interests at heart. And in the process of making friends with those people, I already talked too much. So coupling those things together, in addition to choosing to be with people for certain reasons, it definitely hindered my growth. So I'm going to first give you my testimony as far as partying and drinking is concerned. And then I'm going to talk about how I use people as my Band-Aids. So with the partying and drinking, what was I covering up? Because again, what was the wound? With any Band-Aid, it's a wound to be covered. It's a wound that you're covering to allow it to heal or to fester. And in my case, it festered. So, honestly and truthfully, what was I covering up? I had not dealt with the mental effects of being molested, and then also having to deal with being diagnosed with kidney disease and kidney problems and things that I had no control over. And additionally, I already had a weakness in my family to alcoholism. My dad was an alcoholic, and I had several family members on my dad's side who had either been alcoholics or had drank excessively at different points in their lives. And so all of those things made for the perfect brewing field, which was, now that I look back on it, it was so stupid because all of that excessive drinking could have killed me because of it could have killed my liver, could have killed my kidney that my brother risked his life to give to me. And I just really wasn't thinking rationally. But again, when you're hurting, you don't think rationally. You think from that place of pain. You have a victim mentality, which I did have. And I'm proud to say that God delivered me from a long time ago. So what was my lowest point? It's like I had several. I had several with the drinking, but I definitely had a few final straws. I had nights when I grayed out, and by gray out, it was like I remember bits and pieces of what happened. And I remember driving home. God had his angels. He had his hand on me because I'll be partying with my friends, and there's nothing wrong again with partying, but I would have drank so much that I shouldn't have been driving, but God made sure I got home safely. One night in particular, after I took the LSAT, I had so much to drink that after a certain time, I don't remember like what I said to people. I know I can be pretty blunt and straightforward without drinking. And so I had been drinking, so I was saying things to people. Still to this day, I don't remember what I said to those people. And it was such a bad incident. I couldn't remember my alarm because I wasn't in my right mind. I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember how to turn the alarm off. At some point, I eventually woke up and turned it off. I had threw up in my car. I had scratches on my forehead. And it's funny now to laugh back about that, and I will definitely tell this story to my nieces and my children as, you know, I had this experience. This is not something you need to do. Like, it's something you could have died from, and I definitely have a greater experience of my dad who had liver cancer and was an alcoholic, and my daddy's not here with me now because of drinking, and he used it as his Band-Aid, and God didn't want me to do the same thing because he saved my life. And so the next day after all of these things would happen, having to piece back together what happened over the night from different people's perspectives instead of my own perspective, that got boring. Like, who wants to have to ask people what they said and have to ask a guy, oh, what did I say? Did I say something to offend you or to hurt your feelings? And, I had someone that I was with at that time, or we weren't together, I should say. We had stopped dating. I remember now, like, him telling me he wanted me to chill out and calm down because he didn't want people to be saying bad things about me. And so now that I look back on it, it's just like, it was so stupid, but I was using that as my Band-Aid. And my friends would tell me like the next day about how I just bore my heart about different things. It was like would go on and on relentlessly because I've always heard the saying drunken words are sober thoughts. And literally I would say stuff and it would the courage liquor is liquid courage. And I would just say stuff that it wasn't mean, but it was just like, dang, like how did I bury that so far within? And so for a day that was supposed to be a huge occasion for me, it's now, like I said, something I laugh about, but at that moment, I was just so embarrassed, so ashamed. And so when did it stop? Like, honestly, when I moved to New Orleans, God decided to put a stop to it. Like, I had no desire to go out like that because I was there for law school. God gave me the passion and the desire to go to law school. It's something I've always wanted to be ever since I was a little kid, that or a doctor. And he took it from me. Like, I no longer had a desire to get drunk, right? Or to party like that. And don't get me wrong, I still go out here and there, but I don't have to get drunk. If I do drink, it's maybe 1 or 2 drinks, but it's not even a big thing I have to do anymore because God has healed me. He took that Band-Aid off. He snatched it off when I was in New Orleans. And I was going through a spiritual detox. I was going through a period of cleansing and healing. And literally, all of those things I literally regurgitated as I was drinking the juice. I was juicing and detoxing. It was a spiritual weight on me. Like, in the process of doing that detox, I lost 10 pounds. Well, 13 pounds altogether. And I firmly believe that was me carrying those things around, me carrying around burdens and things that was hurting me because I couldn't deal with it. And like I said, I still drink on occasion, but backing up, it was definitely in New Orleans. I remember one night I had been fasting and I went out with the rest of the law students and I only had 2 drinks. And it was something I never had before, but it tasted good. And so, just to be social, I drank. And when I got home, I was fine. But I woke up in the middle of the night like my body was on fire. I thought I was dying. And I literally had to put my hands on the wall. Like, I don't know how I got out of the bed without throwing up. And I do think I ended up throwing up. Like, I just sat on the floor next to the toilet, and I made it to the kitchen, and I grabbed 2 bananas, and I ate half of one. I had half a banana in the bed with me and the other banana on the nightstand. But after that, I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. Like, and again, if I do drink, I know to drink with moderation, but I could have killed myself. And anybody that is drinking and you're watching this, like, you could kill yourself. Alcohol dehydrates you. And if you don't eat right, like I said, that particular day I was fasting. So all I was eating was salads and juicing. And so it was the stupidest thing I did. But I'm grateful that I'm alive and here to say that God took that thing from me. He snatched that Band-Aid off, like, and I'm just so much happier because I have peace being in my right mind. I have peace being able to remember stuff. I have peace not just feeling like I gotta fit in or do anything stupid to gain approval of other people. The other way that I was covering my wounds was through people and relationships. What was I covering up? Like with the friendships, I was covering up a need to be accepted and to feel like I belong. Ever since I was little, I've always been different. Like, not different in a way of like a shameful different, but I just vibrated on a different frequency. Like, I was always in tune with myself. Like, I've always been in my mind and aware of my thoughts and aware of my mind. And I've always had a relationship with God ever since I was a little kid. And so those were the things that kept me going. But everybody wants to feel like they belong. Everyone wants to feel like they fit in. I didn't. I was super smart and I was very sensitive, I wasn't a loner, but I was very sensitive. I was the only girl, so didn't really fit in with my brothers. I mean, I did the things that they did, obviously, to, hang out, spend time with my dad. But the one thing that gave me such great peace was riding my bike by myself. I would ride around the neighborhood. I would ride to my friend's house. I would ride to my aunt's house and ride back up and down the street. And I would just do this every day. And I had such great peace. But when you want to fit in and blend in with everybody else, when God calls you to be set apart, it don't work and it doesn't last. And I was one of those people, always had people around me. Like, literally, if you look at my last few birthdays, like, don't get me wrong, I love people and I love the energy they give me, but now it's different. Like, I want to be around like-minded people. I want to be around people who are going to be a blessing to me. I want to be around people who love me for me and add to my life and want to see me improve and grow versus people that are just space holders, just there to take up space or to take up time. I want people that love me to be present and aware of and a part of all of those critical moments in my life. And I just felt like at the time having all those people around me, whether it was friends or whether it was guys, that I was dating or talking to at the time, it made me feel normal. And so I would feel so many different emotions, and a lot of times the burden that came with those emotions I couldn't carry. Like with guys specifically in romantic involvements, it was a kaleidoscope with the root of it being the root of it being my having been molested. I just got to a place I was just not myself. Like, I was just accepting things that I didn't have to accept and making compromises that I didn't have to make just to keep people in my life. And I didn't really understand how much my worth was because of how I saw myself. I saw myself as a victim. I didn't feel like I could say no. I didn't feel like I had that power. And then I honestly feel like I was covering up the instability and chaos I had within inside. I had a need to be in control. That's the type A thing. But also, having been molested, I relinquished my control in certain situations, which was just crazy. And so I would give off an appearance of like I didn't care, being really nonchalant when I did care. But I felt like I couldn't say how I felt, which was, a offshoot of my dad having passed and how people made me feel around the time of my dad's death. And out of respect for my dad, I didn't tell people off. Out of respect for my mom, I didn't curse people out. So I kept those feelings to myself, and I that kind of carried over into how I was dealing with people I was romantically involved with. And then, not to forget, I would get so caught up in that person at times that I wasn't fully being myself. And then the flip side is that I was confusing people who were merely assignments with me needing to be romantically involved with them. Like, so many people I was just supposed to learn a lesson from. Case in point, one person I was supposed to learn to just shut my mouth. And at that time, once I got ready to move back, I was feeling like, okay, I'm going to get married. So one of these people needs to be my husband. So, trying to make somebody fit into that that round hole when they were a square. No pun intended. Actually, maybe yes. So I got myself entangled. It became an entanglement. And so I messed up so much. I dated so many people that I wasn't supposed to be with, and was involved with people that I shouldn't have been with, that it took me a while to like really unload that baggage. Like, I have to thank God for sending me to New Orleans, because I did a lot of that unloading there. But when I came back, because I hadn't truly grasped the meaning of that video I did, breaking it down: amigos, associates and acquaintances, allies, advocates, advisors, and then of course your adversaries and antagonists. I hadn't really grasped that for myself. Oh, excuse me, I left off assignments. But it was so many people in my life that were merely assignments, merely people I was either supposed to be praying for, praying with, sharing knowledge or wisdom that I had gained, that it was a blur in there. And so I had to get back to me, get back to God, and allow God in me to manifest, allow God in me to come forward, allow God to help move the clutter. And now it's just better. Like, things are in order. I know when I'm supposed to do things. I know God is first and foremost with everything, and He will order my steps. After that, I just spoke earlier about whatever has your focus, that's where that's where you will concentrate. And clearly I was focused on being married. Clearly I was focused on fitting in. Clearly I was focused on having somebody in my life, that I was not focusing on God. And that just put me in a place that I didn't need to be in. And so now that I look back, like, a lot of the guys that I was involved with, they have now since moved on to serious relationships. And I'm not bitter. I'm really happy for them. I'm really grateful that they have moved on and are with the person that they're supposed to be with. But, I kind of get mad at myself, because I'm like, man, I put myself off of, I put myself in a place of missing out on my blessing, because I was so adamant about covering up things, covering up how I was feeling inside, not dealing with that stuff. But I'm grateful, because God has healed me. He's delivered me, and I just have peace about it. So what was my lowest point? I've had a few low points in this particular area. I had a friend who was like liking all of my significant others and trying to talk to them or see if she could seduce them. I had this mentality: keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And she was like a friend of me. And don't get me wrong, I grew to really love her and care for her. But God had to show me, this is not how this needs to go about. Again, giving the wrong people access to your life. And God delivered me from that relationship by a dream. I had a dream while I was at her house, and that was a clear indication: you need to go. You don't need to be doing this. You don't need to be hanging out with her. within the same day or so of me having a dream, my first boyfriend called me and with some crazy stuff, and God reminded me, you had this dream. I've already showed you who she is. You need to let that go. And so, then another situation, I had an ex-boyfriend who I believed I was madly in love with, but I don't really believe that was what it was. I think I was in love with the thought of being in love. I was in love with the nature of the relationship. And I really, at that time, I had prayed that God would teach me how to love as He loves. And God, you got to be so careful what you pray for. You really do. Because, wow, I'm just realizing this now. Like, in that relationship, God showed me I had a perfect example of agape love all along in my parents. Like, my mom and dad endured, difficulties. My dad being an alcoholic, my mom coming from a dysfunctional family, and they went on to raise me and my brothers. And, even though things didn't turn out perfectly, we got by. And to see before my dad died, I always tear up about this. Before my dad died, while he was still on the breathing machine, we had actually just taken him off the breathing machine, but it was definitely God, because he mustered up energy to kiss my mom goodbye. And so it was in that relationship that I was able to see what an ideal marriage is like. No marriage is perfect, but I saw my mom and dad endure. And here I was staying with somebody that said they loved me, but he was hurting himself, and so he couldn't love me. And I was just making all the excuses, blaming myself because of the things that I had gone through. And then I was even willing to compromise things I wanted to do. He wanted to have a child, and I was not ready to be somebody's parent because I had just had my kidney transplant. And I was trying to be there. Like, I would give him my last. And he ended up cheating. I knew it. I felt it within me, but he ended up having a baby with somebody. And so, I just felt like mentally broken down in that relationship. Then I had another relationship that I learned. I got the answer to my prayer that God teach me how to love as He does. He did that with the person the last relationship I consider myself having. You gotta be careful what you pray for, Lord. And that's literally what He did. He taught me to love as He did, because everything that happened, it made me feel like Jose and his wife Gomer. Gomer was a prostitute. Jose kept taking her back, and I kept loving him, like kept praying for him, kept interceding for him, kept believing, holding on to the vision that maybe me and him was going to be together one day. And, I learned the lesson of loving like God loves, but more importantly,